Session. Okay, we're going live. 3, 2, 1, live.
Good morning. Good morning in the UAE pavilion in the COP26. I am Fatima Alshamsi, your moderator for today, and one of the important goals of the COP26 is to secure a global net zero by mid of the century. Nearly 100 countries has announced their commitment to the net zero or the climate neutrality. Just before the COP, the Gulf states and the Middle East, represented by the Gulf state, has announced their participation on this by UAE announcing their strategic initiative to achieve climate neutrality by 2050, and Kingdom of Saudi Arabia announcing their achievement to achieve the net zero by 2060, and also followed by Bahrain announcing their willingness to achieve the net zero by 2060 also. Today I have our esteemed panel, Dr. Malik, the Executive Director of the Strategy Affair in the Department of Energy of Abu Dhabi, and Dr. Abdullah Sabai, the advisor, Clean Energy Technology Advisor in the Ministry of Energy in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and of course from the International Energy Forum, the Secretary General, Mr. Joseph McMongal. Welcome, and thank you for joining us on this discussion. It is a pleasure to have everybody here, especially with a short announcement just before the COP. I'll start my question to the UAE and Saudi Arabia with regard to their announcement. Each country has its own challenges and motivation to achieve the net zero. What are the challenges and opportunities for UAE and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to realize their climate ambitions? Dr. Shama, ladies first.
Thank you, Engineer Fatima. It is my pleasure to be today with you, Dr. Abdullah and Mr. Joseph. Referring to your question, I believe that challenges and opportunity vary from country to country, relying on many aspects like energy security, social impact, and environmental impact as well. So as you know, oil has been a key driver for our economy for decades. And considering the energy transition trends, we are focusing on our objectives related to the sustainability, where these objectives lead us and drive us to achieve a reasonable oil and gas production sector and simultaneously reduce energy-related green gas emissions. Our strategy in UAE, I think that we have to focus on diversification of economy. So we took the benefits from the global energy transition trends, and we consider it for us as opportunity to align our role as oil and gas producer to the international community with our ambitious plans and targets toward the climate change. We have already capitalizing on many projects that related to the net zero emission. For example, if we would like to talk about carbon capture, utilization, and storage. For example, we have this technology and we already deploy them at significant scale in enhanced oil recovery. If we are talking about hydrogen as well, we are already stepping in hydrogen because we believe that has a great potential to support us in energy transition, and especially in a transition to a carbon neutral economy. If we elaborate more about the investment initiatives, strategic initiatives related to net zero in UAE. Just during COP26, 2 days ago, UAE signed a pledge with other countries to cut methane by 30% in 2030. And the aim of this initiative is to utilize a drone and satellite and for monitoring and achieve gold standards, which is already agreed by the major oil producer and gas producer as well. So we take this as opportunity for us for converting waste to energy. Other example, just before today's as well, UAE and US launched 4 billion initiatives allocated for the innovative agriculture mission, where I believe personally that it will have a huge impact on net zero emission journey over the coming years and worldwide. If we more talk about the investment, you already invested around 16.8 billion in clean energy in 70 countries. So we can see that the impact of that. In addition to that, in January, last January, Abu Dhabi, there was initiative, Greenbones Initiatives, which is joint initiative between Department of Energy, global Abu Dhabi Global Market as well, and Abu Dhabi Security Exchange. The aim was for this initiative is to establish Abu Dhabi as a green hub for issuing green bonds and green sukuk as well, and it is allocated for sustainable projects in the Emirates, Middle East, and Africa as well. So, as already announced a few weeks ago, in UAE we already committed to the neutrality of the climate, and we have like a map, a roadmap to collaborate between all the sector in United Arab Emirates, like transportation, like industry, oil and gas, utility. All of this will be collaborated to achieve our targets for 2030.
Thank you, Dr. Sham. It seems that the plan is there,
Yeah.
and all the best. Dr. Abdullah, if you share with us the opportunity and challenges and maybe the enablers for Saudi Arabia.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting us and hosting us in the UAE event here, and we appreciate this opportunity with my colleagues here, the speakers. During the announcement of the Saudi Green Initiative, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman announced the ambition of Saudi Arabia aiming at net zero by 2060. And that announcement sets the path forward, and along with the other announcements by other GCC countries, I think it sends a clear message and shows a testimony of how the GCC countries are contributing to the global effort when it comes to climate actions. These announcements comes in the process where those countries are developing their transitions into economic diversifications and growing their economies. So when Saudi Arabia initiated the Vision 2030 a few years ago, the roots were there. The sustainability, the environmental aspects were all included into these access, especially in all the programs. There are several programs into the Vision 2030 for Saudi Arabia, and all the elements are captured within those programs. So the plans are there, it sits forward. And when we announced the Saudi Green Initiatives, it includes all the initiatives that will contribute toward this ambitions, including whether the renewable energy expansion into the energy mix, the energy efficiency, and all of these initiatives present opportunities for the unique situations where we are growing our economy at the same time in a more sustainable and clean way. Just one example, we have the National Industrial Logistic Program, where they target the localization of solar energy manufacturing. So this is an opportunity that is well aligned with the direction into the climate actions. Other Other opportunities include the development of technologies. We know that the transition will not be easy, where we have transition for our energy portfolios as well our economy. So technologies like the carbon capture and utilization, like the hydrogen, the blue and green hydrogens, these are very essential to the pathway toward the climate ambitions. And in that regard, the Saudi Arabia, and I believe as well as UAE, working into international collaborations and major initiatives like the Mission Innovation, the Clean Energy Ministerial. So these are opportunities for pushing the borders for these technologies to contribute to the overall effort into meeting our ambitions.
Dr. Abdullah, the Saudi Arabia announcement has the a point that is attracting other and raising question even. You will achieve the net zero by 2060 through the circular carbon economy. And I think this is a point interested to our audience. And if you elaborate about the circular carbon economy plan for the Saudi Arabia and how you are going to implement this within the carbon neutrality.
Thank you. The circular carbon economy is the way that Saudi Arabia is planning to achieve its climate ambitions. The circular carbon economy is an inclusive, is a comprehensive approach. Basically, it allows anyone who wants to adopt this framework to choose the path that is most applicable, that is most practical for their circumstances and their current and economic situations. We understand that when it comes to climate actions, that different countries, different parties, they have their own circumstances, they have their own specific pathway, considering their situations, considering the availability of resources, the maturity of the economy and the way forward for economic growth. So within the 4 elements of the circular carbon economy, the reduce, the remove, recycle and reuse, it provides a framework where each one you could select from those elements the technologies and the projects that will meet the overall objective of managing and balancing your emissions. So Saudi Arabia is launching a circular carbon economy national program where there are many initiatives and projects in every element of the 4 R's. Okay. For example, for the renewables, the plan is to reach around between 45 to 50% of the energy mix from renewable resources by 2030. Also in the energy efficiency, as well as the carbon capture and utilization, the CCUS, Saudi Arabia is planning to build one of the largest CCUS hubs in the world. And that will be also a collaborative work between the region, where we work with the GCC countries to look at a regional hub for carbon capture and utilizations, because it benefits everyone. And this is in the direction of implementing the 4 R's in order to achieve the managing and balancing emissions objectives.
Now, your members, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and all your members, actually the 71 members you have, are all signature. They have signed the Paris Agreement, and in this Paris Agreement, the carbon neutrality in the mid of the century is one of the important clauses, and we see that even the oil and gas producer now going aligned with this carbon neutral or climate neutrality commitment. How IF can help their members to achieve this ambitious target, especially with the thinking of diversification of economy, thinking of different possibility for oil and gas exporter to also be energy exporter.
Well, Your Excellency Fatima, thank you for the question, and thanks to the government of the UAE for hosting this special panel today. As you pointed out, the IEF is the largest energy security organization of all the energy agencies. IEA is the consumer countries and OPEC is the producer countries. We have the producers and consumers together. And increasingly, we are also the developed and developing countries platform as well, because we have a lot of developing countries that are also members. The priorities of the IEF are energy security, stable energy markets, and the energy transition. I'm the first American Secretary General, so if you allow me, we have an American saying that even President Biden, I think, has used in other contexts, and it's that we have to walk and chew carbon at the same time. And essentially, the world still needs hydrocarbons to function and to grow. This year oil growth will be about 5 to 6 million barrels a day. Next year it'll be about 3 to 4 million barrels a day. And really, my colleagues here and their countries, Saudi Arabia and UAE, have a really special role, I think, because they have a balancing act. They have to, on the one hand, provide security of supply of hydrocarbons to keep the world economic, market stable. But on the other hand, they're also trailblazers in energy transition technologies, as we just heard. And so I think this is really important, and even the G20 ministers have recognized this, and I noted that even earlier this week that Secretary of State Blinken asked the minister, please, produce increased production to meet the current energy challenges that we're facing. That really result from a lack of investment, especially because of COVID, but there are some other fundamental factors. But just getting back to the G20 Leaders Summit that was just held in Rome, they just tasked the IEF with leading a panel, a conference actually, a producer-consumer conference on energy security. So keeping an eye on energy security while the world transitions. And so we'll be doing that probably next year in conjunction with the IEF 17 ministerial meeting that will be held in Saudi Arabia. As far as some other initiatives that the IEF has, earlier this summer we launched a methane measurement methodology initiative. You can't really address what you can't measure, and so we came up with a way, working with member countries, to come up with baselines and measurement methodologies, and incorporated satellite data and other AI and big data information to come up with this methodology. It's very much complementary to what the US and the EU launched with the Global Methane Pledge, and I know is represented here. And so we're going to be working on that well into next year, I'm sure, in coordination with the US. We're also developing a hydrogen project. We'll hope to have a report early next year that looks at how the hydrogen economy looks in its initial stage. So there's a lot of, how is it going to look, 20, 30 years from now, but how's it going to look initially? And there are going to be different issues regarding contracting and shipments, and is it going to look like the LNG market? So we're examining that now. We're also doing a lot on CCE, especially carbon capture, use, and storage, which is really going to be critical. We need to move from millions to billions of carbon to be captured, and it's really critical that we start green lighting CCUS the same way the world after the 1970s green lighted energy efficiency, and now that's mainstream today. And lastly, we've launched another initiative that's called Infrastructure in Transition. And it essentially looks at how do we get the infrastructure we have today and strengthen it, upgrade it, and maybe add, and probably have to add new infrastructure to meet the energy transition and be able to, not just to power the world economy, but also make sure it's resilient. And so those are just a few things that we're working on, but very pleased to have my colleagues here. They're very important members of the IAF and bring a lot of important leadership, not just on energy security, but also on the transition.
Interesting. Now, how the hydrogen will be in the initial is an area where many questions there. Which color? What color will be there? We know that maybe the future is green mostly, but answering the question of the initial phase, and as you said, stability of the energy sector is very important, and we should not forget about our role as to keep the economy growth. Energy is the main player for this, and we don't want to miss economic growth. Thank you, Dr. Shamma, thank you, Dr. Abdullah, thank you, Joseph, for sharing your idea, and I will leave it to you to have a closing remark on this. Starting with you, Joseph, this time.
Okay. Well, I'll just add to what you said. I mean, we're here at COP and discussing really important meetings regarding climate change and the transition, but one of the backdrops is really an energy crisis, and I think we have to be careful about that we don't let a climate crisis turn into an energy crisis. And the reason I say that is because right now we're witnessing, especially in gas markets, high volatility and prices, higher prices, and it's indeed, a crisis. Gas markets in Europe and in Asia are on red alert, and oil prices are also being affected by that and the return demand after COVID. And I think it's important that policymakers here be conscious of an orderly transition, because the thing I think that could be very counterproductive for progress on climate change is if we lose public support for climate progress. And I'm worried that volatility and higher prices will undermine that public support. And once you lose that, I think it's very hard to get back. So I think it's really important that we proceed cautiously and put the emphasis on an orderly transition.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And just to tap on that, the transition for our countries depends heavily on the innovation and the maturity of the technologies, and that where come the R&D institutions, where technologies like the hydrogen, the carbon capture and utilization, the direct air capture, these are technologies that needs to be scaled up, that needs to be at the commercialization level to make it more feasible to be deployed in the transitions. And I want to second the activity that the IAF is doing. So the technology development is not only the R&D part, where the standardization, the policies, these where IAF and other organizations could help and boost those activities into pushing the technologies where they can be at a level that can be deployed feasibly.
Thank you. Dr. Shamma.
Just to add to what my colleagues already said, I think or I believe that collaboration is very important after COP, once COP is already finished. We have to collaborate not only by internally in countries, but a global collaboration between countries in all the field. As we said, innovation is very important to be implemented, to be have special funds for it, for a program, allocated fund and program for it. But I think collaboration between all the countries and all the fields will solve a lot of problems related to the climate change. One country and 10 countries and 30 countries will not do that much unless the global will have hand to hand and to solve the problem of the climate change, hopefully.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for our audience to be there to listen to this discussion. Hope that it was a fruitful discussion, as I feel that from my side that was very fruitful, and hope you have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
عشان تيجي تلوي قبل كم وقت